All right, hello everybody. This is Koi, Jason, Liam, and Eric. And today we will be presenting to you the Oregon turtles. Specifically two species. The invasive species is the red-eared sliders, and the native species, the western pond turtle.
The native species in Oregon that we chose to research was the western pond turtle, or Actinides murmurata. The western pond turtle is a species of freshwater turtle that lives in the freshwater lakes, rivers, streams, and ponds of North America. They tend to prefer slow-moving or stagnant water. Western pond turtles also require areas of land that provide the turtles with safe, secluded terrestrial habitats for breeding and nesting. Western pond turtles also require places where they can bask in the sunlight to maintain their body temperature, such as rocks and logs. Western pond turtles' diets primarily consist of plant matter, although they also eat insects and other aquatic invertebrates such as crayfish and worms. They've also been known to prey on tadpoles and salamander eggs, and will even eat carrion from other dead organisms, such as dead fish. Their most prevalent natural predators are largemouth bass and the American bullfrog, which prey on juvenile western pond turtles. Western pond turtles also prey to animals such as large birds of prey, such as ospreys, and otters and coyotes. Western pond turtles are well adapted to a life around slow-moving freshwater. For one, they are excellent swimmers, which allows them not only to find food, such as aquatic plants or small invertebrates underwater, but also allows them to escape from potential danger by diving under the surface. Like most turtles, they also have a hardened outer shell that protects them from further from any outside threats, such as predators. Western pond turtles are also notably dull in coloration, which allows them to blend in with the mud. In addition, western pond turtles are well adapted to surviving in the temperate areas such as Oregon. Not only are they able to hibernate during the winter months that they would otherwise have a very low chance of surviving, they're also able to spend up to 6 months out of water if necessary, which allows them to survive in times of drought. Here we see some pictures of western pond turtles in the wild. Notice their dull coloration that allows them to blend in easily with their environments.
The invasive species that we decided to research on is the red-eared slider. Its scientific name is Trichemes scripta elegans. Some descriptions of the red-eared slider is that it has a flat oval shell with top colors ranging from bright green, yellow, olive, brown, and black. The undershell color is yellow with dark patches, and it has a distinct red stripe behind their eye, which influenced their name red-eared slider. Here we see some pictures of red ear sliders. As you can see here, the distinctive red behind their eye, which gives them their name. Yeah. The original habitat of the species is in mid to southern central United States. As you can see here, into the east of that is their sister species.
Habitats of the red-eared sliders primarily consist of lakes, ponds, slow-moving or stillbacks of rivers. Their optimal body temperature is 28 degrees Celsius, and the preferred temperature of their habitat ranges from 10 to 32 degrees Celsius. Their diet primarily consists of plants, insects, snails, tadpoles, crayfish, worms, and small fish. The life history of red-eared sliders are that males reach sexual maturity after 3 to 5 years. Females will reach sexual maturity after 5 to 7 years. The mating season of the red-eared sliders begins in May, and egg laying takes place between late May and early July. The red-eared sliders mating season begins earlier than native Oregon species of turtles. Red-eared sliders will also lay more eggs than their native counterparts. The red-eared slider is able to adapt to more northern and colder environments because they have learned to hibernate during the cold seasons. Red-eared sliders and western pond turtles interact for food, nesting areas, cover habitats, and nesting sites. Red-eared sliders are also able to transmit parasites and diseases to western pond turtles, which they have no immunity to. The reason red-eared sliders have become invasive in so many different ecosystems is because they are the most exported reptile in all of the United States. And as the red-eared sliders grow larger, their owners will often release them into the environment. This is a map showing the states which red-eared sliders are native to, and states in which the red-eared sliders have become non-native invasive species. These are our interaction hypotheses about the red-eared sliders and the western pond turtles. The red-eared sliders tend to be dominant in ecosystems that they share western pond turtles with. The red-eared sliders are more aggressive and better competitors than the western pond turtles, i.e., they have a larger dietary range, they're more aggressive when in their habitat, they breed earlier and produce more offspring. They can also spread diseases that hurt the western pond turtles population.
All right, so recent research that has supported our hypothesis is this study that was conducted by a group of biologists. And they studied the removal of red-eared sliders from a habitat that contained both red-eared sliders and western pond turtles. And they specifically studied the impact on the western pond turtle's body condition and habitat use. Now, what does that mean? Body condition, they actually measured the plastron length. So that's like the length of the shell underneath on the bottom of the turtle. And they measured the growth or the change in size. And they also generated a model that would predict the body mass or the body weight of the turtles. And so they also used that to measure as well. In terms of habitat use, the biologists observed the basking sites of the turtles and examined how the difference between like the density and the distribution of the basking sites. And so what they did was they trapped and caught the red-eared sliders, took them out of the habitat and euthanized them. And after removing a considerable amount of red-eared sliders, then they measured the changes within the western pond turtles. And so after this experiment, the team actually found out that with the removal of the invasive species, the western pond turtles actually grew a lot bigger, gaining around 40 grams on average and around a 5 to 15% increase in their body weight, which is pretty significant. And in terms of habitat use, they noticed that instead of the western pond turtles being clustered in one spot, so having a clumped distribution, after the removal of the red-eared sliders, western pond turtles were evenly distributed across the waterways. So they had more access to habitat and resources, and that's a great thing for the western pond turtles. An interesting thing that the study also noted was that even the red-eared sliders that were not removed from the habitat, even they seemed to benefit from the removal of their comrades, because removing the red-eared sliders took away a lot of the intra-specific competition and allowed the fewer amount of red-eared sliders to have access to resources, a better distribution of resources as well. And so therefore this study supports our hypothesis, because by removing the red-eared sliders from this ecosystem, it allowed the western pond turtles to grow larger and spread more evenly throughout the environment. And this indicates that, that the red-eared sliders have been taking up a large amount of resources and nutrients that used to be available to the western pond turtles.
So, research studying the relationship between the western pond turtle and invasive species like the red-eared sliders have been conducted in recent years due to increasing concerns over the declining population of western pond turtles. In 2013, the group of researchers from the disease and aquatic organisms conducted a study to determine the prevalence of the rhinovirus, herpes virus, mycoplasma enterobacteriaceae, and salmonella infection in native Emys marmorata, or western pond turtle, and invasive Trachemys scripta elegans, or red-ear sliders. They compared infection rates between E. marmorata populations with T. scripta elegans that live in the same area and those that live in other areas. The researchers sampled 145 E. marmoratas along with 33 T. scripta elegans from 10 different study sites throughout California. The researchers found that rhinovirus and herpes virus was not found in any sampled turtles. The prevalence of mycoplasma infection in E. marmorata was 7.8% in northern, 9.8% in central, and 23.3% in southern California. Mycoplasma infection was not detected in T. scripta elegans from northern California, but was detected in those from central and southern California. Salmonella and Enterobacteriaceae in E. marmorata was found in 29.4% of northern, 19.6% in central, and 25% in southern California. In T. scripta elegans, Enterobacteriaceae was detected at a prevalence of 25% in northern, 36% in central, and 28% in southern California. There seems to be no association between Enterobacteriaceae and mycoplasma infection in the sampled turtles. According to ANOVA, the researchers found that mycoplasma infection in E. marmorata was associated with their weight. After conducting the study and evaluating the effects of Enterobacteriaceae, mycoplasma infection, rhinovirus, and herpesvirus on E. marmorata and T. scripta elegans populations, the researchers concluded that wild native E. marmorata populations living in the same environment as invasive T. scripta elegans do not have a higher infection rate, and that infection rate is associated with lower body weight and possible chronic stresses from the environment. Further research regarding the relationship between pathogens and the reduced body weight of western pond turtles is likely to continue in the future, as it has been stated that this study is merely the first of its number of potential studies regarding the pathogens that may be affecting the western pond turtles. Based on this research, the findings clearly refute our hypothesis that the red ear sliders are outcompeting the western pond turtle, partly because they're transmitting deadly diseases to western pond turtles, which lower their population.
As you can see here, this is our food web that we made for the western pond turtle and with the red-eared slider. So as you can see here, the algae and the aquatic plants are the producers. The pond snail and the crayfish are our primary consumers. Western pond turtle and red-eared sliders are our secondary consumers, as well as primary consumers because they also eat the algae and aquatic plants. And then up here, the sea otters, largemouth bass, American bullfrog, and osprey are our tertiary consumers. And an interesting thing to note here is that the western pond turtle and the red-eared sliders feed on mainly the same species. So they both eat crayfish, the snail, the algae, and aquatic plants. And this is a problem for the western pond turtle because, as you know, the red-eared slider is very invasive and they reproduce a lot more, and they survive a lot better. And so when they eat more of these resources like the crayfish and snail, the algae, and the aquatic plants, that leaves less resources and less nutrients, less food for the western pond turtles to eat and survive on. And so as red-eared sliders go up, aquatic plants, algae, crayfish, and snails go down. And so because of that, as a result, the western pond turtle also goes down. In terms of ongoing research, this program called the Western Pond Turtle Recovery Program is an ongoing program, and it's this head starting project in collaboration with the Oregon Zoo, the Woodland Park Zoo, and the WDFW. And so what this program is that it's a project that is focused on helping western pond turtles grow, so that when they get released in the wild, they can have a better chance of survival. And so how do they do this? Biologists collect turtle hatchlings when they just hatch around in the fall, and then they move them to zoo facilities like the Oregon Zoo, and they simulate this predator-free summer environment throughout the fall and the winter to continue their growth. Because usually in the wild, these turtles go into hibernation in the winter, and they don't grow because they're just hibernating. But by simulating this summer environment throughout the fall and winter, they're able to grow 3 times larger than if they were in the wild. So by the following summer, turtles are now 3 times larger. And at this size, they are too big to be eaten by bullfrogs, which is one of their main predators. And after, they're too big to be eaten by bullfrogs, this significantly increases their chance of survival. And so these turtles are now released at sites selected by the WDFW. And studies have revealed that an estimated 95% of turtles released in the Columbia River Gorge, which is one of these selected sites, survived the first year. And the cool thing is that this recovery program started in 1990, and there were only 2 populations of western pond turtles left in Washington. But today, 6 populations of western pond turtles have been established in the Puget Sound, and 4 populations have been established in the Columbia River Gorge. And over 1,800 turtles have been head started and released into these sites, which is an incredible feat.
Let me just start that. Researchers have been working on methods to attempt to save the remaining western pond turtles from the brink of becoming an endangered species. Not only are red-eared sliders being captured and relocated or humanely euthanized in order to help the ecosystems that the red-eared sliders had once dominated recover, captured red-eared sliders are also being used in genetic research to map out and record the genome of turtles and pteropods. In addition, the genomes of red-eared sliders are planned to be used in future studies regarding turtle, vertebrate, reptile, and chromosome evolution.